Streets of Boston on a calm afternoon. A massive glass window shatters, another one falls, then another. And soon, why would one of the world's most advanced skyscrapers suddenly start raining glass? The glass used in skyscrapers is totally different. It's called tempered glass. The John Hancock Tower completely changed the way engineers and architects think about structural glass. The biggest dangers are the ones.
Hello everyone, this is Ruhi here and welcome to Cross Section. So the idea behind this channel is that every object around us has a story hidden beneath its surface. And most of the time, guess what? We never notice it. But seriously, every crack, every failure, and even every breakthrough has a reason waiting to just be discovered. So at cross section, we go beneath the surface, not just to understand what happened, but to uncover why it happened. Because every failure leaves behind a lesson, and every story has another layer waiting to be revealed. So let's get started.
Imagine walking on the streets of Boston on a calm afternoon. Towering above you is one of the city's newest landmarks, a stunning skyscraper covered entirely in reflective blue glass. It was designed to symbolize modern engineering and architectural excellence. Then suddenly, without anyone touching it, a massive glass window shatters and crashes onto the street below. A few days later, another one falls, then another, and soon thousands of glass panels have to be removed because nobody knows which one might fall next. This wasn't caused by an earthquake. It wasn't caused by a hurricane, and it wasn't because the building itself was collapsing. If you know, this was the John Hancock Tower in Boston, completed in the early 1970s. So, why would one of the world's most advanced skyscrapers suddenly start raining glass? Let's investigate. Engineers first examined the problem. Several possibilities seemed likely. Was the building swaying too much in the wind? Had the glass been installed correctly? Were the panels simply too thin? Or had the manufacturer produced defective glass? But the investigation revealed something far more surprising. The glass wasn't failing because something outside was hitting it. It was failing because of something trapped deep inside the glass itself. But before we understand why, we first need to understand why engineers trusted glass so much in the first place. Now, most people think of glass as fragile. Drop a drinking glass on the floor and it shatters instantly. But the glass used in skyscrapers is totally different. It's called tempered glass. Think of tempered glass like ordinary glass that has gone through an intense workout. During manufacturing, it is heated to a very high temperature and then cooled extremely quickly. This process leaves the outer surface under compression, making the glass much stronger than ordinary glass. And that's why tempered glass is used in skyscrapers, car windows, shower doors, and even smartphone screens. Imagine you're designing one of the tallest buildings in the world. You need a material that's strong, durable, weather resistant, and crystal clear. Tempered glass seems like the perfect choice. Unfortunately, there was one tiny problem that nobody could see. During manufacturing, microscopic particles called nickel sulfide can occasionally become trapped inside the glass. They're so small that they are practically impossible to spot during normal inspection. At first, these tiny particles don't cause any problems. But over time, as the building experiences hot summers, cold winters, sunshine, shade, and daily temperature fluctuations, those particles slowly expand. Which particles? Those microscopic particles of nickel sulfide. To make this easier, let's imagine placing a tiny pebble inside a balloon and then slowly, somehow, making that pebble larger. At first, nothing happens, but as the pebble grows bigger and bigger, eventually the balloon can no longer take the pressure and it bursts. That's essentially what was happening inside the glass. Eventually, the growing internal stress became too much. A crack suddenly formed. And unlike metals, glass doesn't bend to relieve stress. Once a crack starts, it spreads almost instantly across the entire panel. This is because glass is a brittle material. Ductile materials like steel are those that bend when applied, when subjected to a force, and then break. They first bend and then they break. However, glass is different. When subjected to a force, it abruptly breaks without any warning. And that is why, in this case, the stored energy inside the tempered glass, although it was stronger than regular glass, was released in a fraction of a second. The entire pane shattered into thousands of small fragments and fell from the building. There was another nuance. The building itself also moves slightly in the wind, as all tall buildings are designed to do so. That's called swaying. That movement wasn't the main cause of the failures, but it added extra stress to glass panels that were already vulnerable because of the tiny particles hidden inside them. This incident highlighted one of the most important characteristics of glass. Glass can be incredibly strong, right up until the moment it breaks. And unlike many metals, as we saw earlier, it gives almost no warning. It doesn't slowly bend, it doesn't permanently deform. It simply reaches a point where a tiny crack can spread across the entire panel almost instantly. The John Hancock Tower completely changed the way engineers and architects think about structural glass. Today, tempered glass used in critical applications often undergoes a process known as heat soak testing. The idea is simple. Instead of waiting years for a defective panel to fail on a completed building, engineers deliberately heat the glass in a controlled environment. If hidden nickel sulfide particles are present, the glass is much more likely to break during testing rather than after it's installed hundreds of meters above the ground. Modern systems are also designed with improved mounting methods, redundancy, and inspection procedures. The lesson in this wasn't that glass is a poor building material. Modern cities could not exist without it. The real lesson was that engineers hadn't chosen the wrong material. They had discovered one of its hidden limitations. Glass remains one of the strongest and most useful materials in modern construction. But the John Hancock Tower reminded engineers that sometimes the biggest dangers are the ones you can't see. Sometimes they're microscopic imperfections hidden deep inside the material itself. Because in engineering, understanding a material isn't just about knowing how strong it is. It's about understanding the tiny weaknesses that can one day bring out its biggest failures. And that brings us to the end of this story. Was there something about the story that maybe surprised you? Or is there another engineering mystery you've always wanted to know about? Whatever it is, I'd love to hear your thoughts and suggestions in the comment section below. And remember, if you're someone who loves to understand or is trying to figure out the hidden science behind engineering, don't forget to subscribe so that you don't miss out on the next episode of Cross Section. Looking forward to seeing you then.